The awakening signal. The silence of deep space was broken by a single transmission that would change everything. Admiral Sarah Chun stood before the massive viewing screen of the UE Sith Perseverance, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched the distant stars. 3,000 years had passed since humanity was cast out from the galactic community, branded as violent primitives unfit for civilization. 3,000 years of survival in the void, of building something, greater from nothing but determination and rage. "Admiral," called Dr. Marcus Webb from his station, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "You need to hear this." Chun turned, her gray eyes sharp despite her 70 years. The decades of exile had carved lines into her face, but they had also forged her into something unbreakable. She approached Webb's console, where alien transmissions flickered across multiple screens in languages that few humans still remembered. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Webb's fingers danced across the holographic interface, isolating a particular frequency. "This is a broadcast from the Hegemony Council chambers. It's in old galactic standard, probably archived material there." "Reviewing." He paused, his expression darkening. "They're discussing the anniversary of Earth's cleansing. The translation algorithm worked quickly, converting the alien words into human speech." Chun listened as a reptilian voice spoke with casual indifference about the success of humanity's extinction. The speaker, identified as Counselor Zeeth Kar of the Saurian Dominion, described how effectively they had eliminated the human plague from civilized space. 3 millennia of peace, the voice continued, achieved through the necessary removal of an unstable species. The galaxy prospers without their chaotic influence. Chun's jaw tightened. She had heard the stories passed down through generations, but hearing the casual dismissal of her entire species in the alien's own words ignited something deep within her chest. The hegemony had not simply exiled humanity, they had tried to erase them completely from galactic memory. "Are they aware we survived?" she asked quietly. Webb shook his head. "According to their records, the last human settlements were eliminated 800 years ago. They believe we're extinct." He pulled up another screen showing massive alien structures. "These are memorial stations, Admiral, built on the sites of former human colonies. They've turned our worlds into tourist attractions." The bridge fell. Silent, every officer present felt the weight of those words. Their ancestors' graves had become entertainment for the very species that had murdered them. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, Chun's second-in-command, stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her knuckles were white where she gripped her datapad. "Admiral, the fleet is ready. All 7 ships are operating at full capacity. Our stealth systems are generations ahead of anything in their databases." Chun nodded slowly. The human fleet was small by galactic standards, but each vessel represented centuries of innovation born from necessity. When you're fighting for survival in the cosmic dark, you learn to build things that last. Their ships were silent, invisible to most scanning methods, and armed with weapons that defied the physics the hegemony thought they understood. "Dr. Webb, what's our current position relative to the old territories?" Webb consulted his charts. "We're approximately 40 light years from what used to be the sole neutral zone. The area is now controlled by a joint hegemony patrol fleet. Intelligence suggests they use it as a training ground for new recruits." "Training ground," Chun repeated, tasting the bitter irony. "They're teaching their children to fight using the bones of our worlds as target practice." She walked to the center of the bridge, her boots echoing in the quiet space. Around her, the command crew waited. These were her people, the descendants of Earth's exiles. They had been born in the darkness between stars, raised on stories of a home they had never seen, and trained for a purpose that had sustained them through 3,000 years of wandering. "Open a fleet-wide channel," she ordered. Rodriguez complied, and Chun's image appeared on screens throughout the 7 ships. Thousands of faces looked back at her, men and women who had never known a planet's surface, who had lived their entire lives preparing for this moment. Today, Chun began, we learned that our enemies believe us dead. They have built monuments to their victory over humanity, and they sleep peacefully believing they succeeded in wiping us from existence. Her voice grew stronger, carrying the weight of centuries of exile. They were wrong. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the fleet. Chun raised her hand for silence. For 3,000 years, we have survived in the void. We have built cities and asteroid fields, grown food in the hearts of dying stars, and forged weapons from the very darkness that was meant to kill us. We are not the same species they cast out. We are something new, something they never expected us to become. She paused, looking directly into the camera. But we are still human. And we remember. The transmission ended, and Chun turned back to her command staff. The time for speeches was over. Now came the work. Dr. Webb, I want a complete analysis of their current military capabilities. Compare it to our projections. Webb's fingers flew over his console. Within minutes, a comprehensive report appeared on the main screen. The results were even better than they had hoped. Admiral, their technology has barely advanced in the last millennium. They've grown complacent, relying on the same weapons and defense systems they used during our exile. Meanwhile, our development has been driven by pure survival necessity. Chun studied the data. The hegemony's ships were larger, more numerous, but they were also predictable. Their weapons were powerful, but crude. Their shields were strong, but inflexible. Most importantly, their sensors were designed to detect threats they understood, not the ghost ships that humanity had become. What about their political structure? She asked. Still the same council system, Webb replied. 12 species each, with equal representation in theory. In practice, the Saurians, Aquarians, and Silicon-based collective control most decisions. The smaller species mostly follow their lead. Any signs of internal conflict? Some. The ethereal syndicate has been pushing for expansion into unexplored sectors. The crystalline empire wants to focus on internal development. There are tensions, but nothing approaching open conflict. Chun smiled grimly. Unity born from comfort and success was always more fragile than unity forged in hardship. The hegemony's greatest weakness was that they had forgotten what it meant to truly struggle. Captain Rodriguez, set course for the outer rim of our old territory. Silent running, maximum stealth. Aye, Admiral. The Perseverance and her sister ships began to move, their advanced engines producing no detectable signature. They glided through space like predators, invisible and patient. Behind them, they left no trace of their passage. Ahead of them lay the first test of humanity's return dot. As the fleet traveled deeper into what had once been human space, Chun found herself standing in the observation deck, staring out at stars that her ancestors had named. Somewhere out there were the worlds, where humans had lived, loved, and died. Worlds that now served as training grounds for the species that had murdered them. Dr. Webb joined her at the viewing port. Admiral, I've been thinking about what comes next. When we reveal ourselves, the galaxy will never be the same. Are we prepared for that? Chun was quiet for a long moment. Marcus, my great-grandmother, died fighting for our right to exist in this galaxy. My grandmother spent her life building the ships that carried us into exile. My mother devoted herself to keeping our culture alive in the darkness. She turned to face him. I was born to bring us home. And if home doesn't want us back, Chun's expression hardened. Then we'll make a new home. But this time, we'll make it somewhere they can never reach us again. The fleet continued its silent journey toward the heart of what had once been humanity's domain. Behind them, The void closed over their passage like water. Ahead, the hegemony slept peacefully, unaware that the ghosts they thought they had laid to rest were coming home got in the depths of the Perseverance. Weapons systems hummed with barely contained energy. In the ship's laboratories, scientists made final preparations for technologies that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. In the quarters of ordinary crew members, families prepared for a confrontation that had been 3,000 years in the making. Admiral Sarah Chun stood at the bridge's center, watching the stars grow larger as they approached their destination. The first phase of humanity's return was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same asterisk. The reckoning begins. The hegemony monitoring station, Omega-7, drifted in the emptiness of space, a massive construct of metal and energy designed to watch over the graveyard of humanity's former colonies. Commander Vexthul, a towering saurian, with scales that gleamed like polished obsidian, walked the observation deck with the casual confidence of someone who had never faced a real threat. "Another quiet rotation?" he remarked to his aide, a nervous Aquarian whose translucent skin flickered with bioluminescent patterns. "Sometimes I wonder why the Council maintains these stations. The humans have been extinct for centuries." The aide, Navigator Splashka, consulted her datapad. "Protocol dictates continued vigilance, Commander. The historical records show that humans were unpredictable." Vexthul laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. Unpredictable, perhaps, but ultimately inferior. They could never have survived in the deep void without proper technology or support. Neither of them noticed the shadow that passed. Silently beneath their station, a shape that bent light around itself, like water around a stone. The U.S. Perseverance glided past the hegemony outpost, its sensors drinking in every detail of the alien structure, while remaining completely invisible to their crude detection systems. Admiral Chun watched the station on her tactical display, noting the weapon placements, shield generators, and communication arrays. It was exactly what Dr. Webb had predicted. Impressive looking, but built with outdated assumptions about warfare. "Analysis complete," Webb reported from his station. "The station's primary weakness is its reliance on centralized power distribution. If we target the main reactor housing, we can disable their shields and communications simultaneously." "Time until they detect us?" Chun asked. "At current distance and with their sensor configuration? Never. We're operating on principles they don't even understand." Chun nodded. This was the moment she had trained for her entire life. The first strike in humanity's return could not be a failure. It had to be swift, precise, and impossible to ignore. "All ships, this is Admiral Chun. Prepare for Operation Homecoming. Target the station's infrastructure, but avoid casualties where possible. We're here to reclaim our place in the galaxy, not to become the monsters they painted us as." The response came immediately from all 7 ships. "Acknowledged, Admiral." "Execute." The attack began with a whisper of displaced energy. The Perseverance's main weapon, a focused gravity lance that compressed space itself, struck the station's reactor housing with surgical precision. The effect was immediate and devastating. The station's shields collapsed. Its communications went dark, and half its sections lost power in a matter of seconds. Commander Vexthul was thrown to the deck as his station shuddered around him. Emergency lights bathed everything in red, and alarms screamed in a dozen different languages. He struggled to his feet, his training overriding his confusion. "Report," he barked. "Unknown attack, Commander." Splashka's voice was high with panic. "Our shields are down, long-range communications are offline, and I'm reading massive structural damage to the lower sections." "Who's attacking us? Where are they?" I don't know, sir. Sensors show nothing. It's like we were hit by empty space." Before Vexthul could respond, every functional screen in the station flickered and went black. Then, slowly, a new image appeared. A human face, weathered but strong, with eyes that burned with the fire of ancient grievances. Admiral Chun looked directly at the Saurian commander, though he knew she could not possibly see him. When she spoke, her words were in perfect galactic. Standard, accent-free, and coldly precise. "Greetings, Commander. I am Admiral Sarah Shun of the United Earth Systems Fleet. You know us better as the species you tried to exterminate 3,000 years ago." Vexthal's blood went cold. He had studied the old records during his academy training. Humans were extinct, wiped out centuries ago. This had to be some kind of hoax, a terrorist group using historical imagery to create fear. "I know what you're thinking," Chun continued, as if reading his mind. "We're supposed to be dead. According to your records, the last human died 800 years ago on a nameless asteroid in the Cygnus sector. Your historians have written extensively about our inevitable extinction and how the galaxy is better without us." The image shifted, showing tactical displays that made Vexthal's knees weak. 7 ships, their configurations unlike anything, in the hegemony databases, hung in space around the station. They had been there all along, invisible and patient. "We survived," Chun said simply. "We adapted. We learned. And now we've come home." The transmission ended, leaving the station in shocked silence. Vexthal stared at the blank screens, his mind struggling to process what he had just witnessed. Then, slowly, he began to understand the true magnitude of what was happening. "Navigator," he said quietly, "send an emergency transmission to Hegemony Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them ... He paused, still barely believing the words he was about to speak. "Tell them the humans are back." 3 star systems away, in the gleaming chambers of the Hegemony Council, Counselor Zethkar was delivering a routine report on border security when the emergency transmission arrived. The massive Saurian's confident demeanor cracked as he read the message, his reptilian features contorting with disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. "The humans are extinct. We have monuments to prove it." High Counselor Tusara, an ancient ethereal whose form shimmered between dimensions, leaned forward with interest. "What troubles you, Zethkar? You look as though you've seen a ghost." "Perhaps I have," Zethkar replied, forwarding the transmission to the full council. "Station Omega-7 reports they are under attack by humans." The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Representatives from 12 species began speaking at once, their voices creating a cacophony of disbelief, fear, and anger. The crystalline delegate's faceted form flashed with agitated light patterns, while the silicon-based representative's electronic tones rose to a harsh buzz. High Counselor Tisara raised one translucent hand, and silence fell. "Show us," she commanded. The chamber's central hologram activated, displaying the damaged monitoring station and the 7 mysterious ships surrounding it. The vessels were sleek, predatory things that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect. Their design was utterly alien to anything in the Hegemony's databases. "If these are truly humans," Tisara said slowly, "then they have changed far more than we thought possible." "It cannot be," Zethkar insisted. "We tracked every human settlement, every ship, every refuge. We eliminated them all." "Did we?" The voice came from Counselor Mamteth of the Aquarian Collective, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with agitation. "Or did we simply eliminate the ones we could find?" Before anyone could respond, every screen in the council chamber flickered and went black. When the image returned, Admiral Chun stood before them as if she were physically present in the room. Her uniform was crisp, her bearing proud, and her eyes held the accumulated weight of 3 millennia of exile. "Honored counselors," she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber, "I come before you not as a supplicant, but as the representative of a people you wronged. 3,000 years ago, you declared humanity unfit for galactic civilization. You drove us from our worlds, scattered our people, and attempted to erase us from history. Zethkar found his voice. Human, your species was dangerous, unstable. The galaxy is more peaceful without your violent nature. Chun's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. Peaceful? Is that what you call the memorial stations built on our graves? The tourism industry that profits from our suffering? The training exercises conducted in the ruins of our cities? How are you broadcasting this? Tisara demanded. Our systems are completely secure. Your systems, Chun replied, were designed to stop threats you understand. We have spent 3,000 years becoming something you never imagined we could be. She paused, letting that sink in. But we are not here for war, despite what you might expect. We are here for justice. The transmission shifted, showing images that made several counselors gasp. Human settlements carved into the hearts of asteroids, cities that floated in the void between stars, massive ships that dwarfed anything the hegemony had ever built. It was a civilization that had not just survived in the cosmic dark, but had thrived there. This is what you tried to destroy, Chun continued. We are no longer the species you exiled. We have become something greater, forged by the very hardship you inflicted upon us. But we remember our origins, and we remember the injustice that drove us into the night. Counselor Zethkar's scales had paled to a sickly yellow. What? What? Do you want? Recognition, Sean replied simply. A place at this table as equals. The return of our ancestral territories. And reparations for 3,000 years of exile. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Some representatives shouted. Denials, others demanded military action, and a few sat in stunned silence. Through it all, Chun's image remained steady, watching them with the patience of someone who had waited centuries for this moment. You have 48 hours to provide an answer, she said, when the noise finally died down. Consider carefully. We are no longer the species you cast out, but we are still human. We remember both kindness and cruelty, and we repay them in equal measure. The transmission ended, leaving the council in shocked silence. High Counselor Tisara was the first to speak. How many ships do they have? Unknown, Zethkar admitted. These 7 appeared from nowhere. There could be dozens more we haven't detected, or hundreds, Menteth added quietly. If they've truly survived for 3 millennia, they've had time to build an entire civilization. The implications were staggering. The hegemony had based its entire expansion on the assumption that humans were extinct. Now, suddenly, they faced a species that had not only survived impossible odds, but had done so while developing technology that made their own seem primitive. What are options? Asked the crystalline representative, its voice chiming like broken glass. Zethkar straightened, his military instincts taking over. We mobilize the fleet. Overwhelming force. We finish what we started 3,000 years ago. And if we can't? Tisara asked quietly. If their technology is truly superior to ours? No one answered. For the first time in millennia, the Hegemony Council faced a threat they didn't understand, from an enemy they had thought was dead. The comfortable certainty of their supremacy was cracking, and through those cracks, humanity had returned to claim its place among the stars. In the void around Station Omega-7, Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, watching her crew work with quiet efficiency. The first shot had been fired, not with weapons, but with truth. Now the galaxy would have to decide how to respond. Dr. Webb approached her station. Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from across hegemony. Space. The broadcast has reached every major system. The reaction is significant. Shun nodded. She had expected as much. The return of a supposedly extinct species would send shockwaves through every level of galactic society. Some would welcome the truth, others would deny it, and still others would prepare for war. Any word from our allies? She asked. The underground is mobilizing. Reports indicate that several minor species are questioning their allegiance to the hegemony. The Tauvi Consortium has officially declared neutrality and is requesting direct contact. Good. The more cracks we can create in their unity, the better. Captain Rodriguez joined them at the command station. Admiral, should we prepare for their response? Our intelligence suggests they'll mobilize their entire fleet. Chun smiled grimly. Let them come, Captain. We've had 3,000 years to prepare for this moment. I think it's time the galaxy learned what humanity has become. The stars stretched endlessly around them, no longer foreign and hostile, but welcoming humanity home. The first phase of the return was complete, but the real work was just beginning. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would the human race that had returned to claim their birthright among the stars. Asterisk.